Hi everyone, my name is Salva and today I'm going to be presenting on the use of focus groups in gifted program evaluations. Here's a quick agenda on what I'm going to be covering in this presentation. I will start off with an introduction to focus groups. We will learn what a focus group is and its various components. Then I will give a brief overview on the purposes and implementation of focus groups according to Van Tassel, Bazga, and Feng in their 2004 textbook titled Designing and Utilizing Evaluation for Gifted Program Improvement. I will then discuss some research that is done regarding the importance of focus groups and how they are used. I will also discuss my handout that is meant to be used as a tool by gifted educators and teachers in improving gifted programs in their schools using focus groups. I will also share with you a survey that can be used to determine if focus groups are used effectively at your schools. I will conclude the presentation by reviewing the use of focus groups. So let's get started. What is a focus group? According to Van Tassel, Bazga, and Feng, a focus group is a qualitative research tool used for meaning construction from group participants on a particular topic of interest to the researcher. Basically, it is the idea that a group of people can gather together and share their perspectives and insights on a certain topic. Focus groups can be used in gifted education to improve the gifted programs in schools, learn about what works and what doesn't work in gifted programs, and come up with new ways to effectively teach gifted students. The authors of the 2004 textbook explained that there are 5 components to a focus group. Let's talk about these as well as some examples of each for a focus group on gifted programs. The first component is the facilitator or the moderator. This is the person that leads the focus group, facilitates group discussions, and manages the speakers in the group. This may be the person who is looking to improve a gifted program. A second component is the set of participants. These are the people that act as key sources of information and data collecting through a focus group. They're the ones that talk about their experiences and give feedback regarding the topic of discussion. For example, teachers or parents of gifted students can be the participants in a focus group that is looking at the issue of underrepresentation in gifted education. The third component is the location or the setting. This is where all the discussions take place. It could be a library, a classroom at a school, or a community center. The fourth component is the set of facilities. This includes any items that are used in the focus group. For example, if a focus group is looking into tackling the issue of differentiated curriculum for gifted students, the facilities may include curriculum documents of the school. The fifth and the last component of a focus group is the focus group protocol. This is basically a guide for the facilitator on how to conduct the focus group interview. For example, if an experienced gifted program coordinator is conducting a focus group on the issue of identification in gifted programs, he or she may have a set of questions that he or she has already prepared beforehand that needs to be asked by the teachers. One of these questions can be how they identify their gifted students. Learning about these components gives a structure to a focus group and makes it easy to implement focus groups with a group of people. Now let's learn about some advantages and disadvantages of focus group interviews. Van Tassel, Bazga, and Feng beautifully outlined these in their textbook. The first advantage of a focus group is that it takes a shorter period of time to obtain the data. It is also easier to collect data directly from the people who are involved with the topic of interest, simply by talking to them. Focus group allows room for clarification between the facilitator and the participants. Focus groups provide an open communication for participants to convey their concerns. When used in gifted education, focus groups can help us identify the issues and improve them through interacting with experts in the field. One of the disadvantages of focus groups is that the moderator may unintentionally influence the participants' answers. For example, if a gifted program coordinator is conducting a focus group on identification of gifted students and the participants are teachers or gifted students, these teachers may be scared to speak the truth about how they identify their students. They may feel like their way is the wrong way and be shy of speaking of it. Another disadvantage is that everyone's opinions comes out very openly. This may create issues within the group if one disagrees with another. Participants who are reserved and are shy speakers may not get a chance to speak up about their opinions. However, this can lead to skewed results because the dominant speaker may be the only one giving his or her opinion to the facilitator or the moderator. Some purposes of focus group interviews are exploratory, confirmatory, triangulation, and self-contained research tool. The exploratory purpose is when very little is known about the topic of research. In gifted education, a coordinator may hold a focus group with the stakeholders, the parents, teachers, administrators, or the students of gifted programs, in order to find out more about the program itself. With this purpose, the facilitator simply wants to explore the topic in order to develop a survey or questionnaire. The confirmatory purpose is when a facilitator has a hypothesis and he or she wants to confirm it by conducting the survey. For example, a program coordinator may doubt that the identification method of a certain gifted program is improperly used. Therefore, he or she can conduct a focus group to find out the real issue. This also applies to when a facilitator wants to confirm the findings of a survey. The triangulation purpose that the facilitator is conducting 3 types of surveys to understand a topic better: a focus group, classroom observation, as well as a questionnaire. In gifted education, a set of facilitators may observe a gifted classroom, conduct a focus group with parents of the gifted students, and study the results of the questionnaire of gifted stakeholders all at the same time. This gives the facilitator a holistic perspective on what they are researching on. The self-contained research tool suggests that focus groups are a great way to conduct independent research. Focus groups give us some qualitative information, so they may be used along with the quantitative research method in order to obtain optimal collection of data. Some dimensions of a program include general perception, program effectiveness, identification, curriculum assessment, and etc. Some questions that focus groups can include fall under these program dimensions. For example, in order to research a program effectiveness, a facilitator may ask, how effective is your gifted program? And what criteria did you use to determine this? Van Tassel, Baska, and Feng suggest more questions in their 2004 textbook on page 121. There are 6 basic steps that can be followed in implementing a focus group session. The first is that the facilitator describes the purpose of the focus group. The second is to receive written responses on some questions. The third is to verbally ask questions. The fourth is when participants start communicating with each other. The fifth is when the facilitator continues his or her questions. The last step is to debrief the session in order to review what was learned. Now I will go over some research that explains how focus groups can be used in various ways. The first article that I'm going to be discussing is titled Gifted Kids Curriculum. What do the students say? This article explains how focus groups can be used in developing curriculum for gifted programs. This article discusses the program titled Gifted Kids and its emphasis on the academic, social, and emotional growth of its students. The researcher in this article uses focus groups to interview former students of the program to see its effectiveness. The results suggest that curriculum serves as a model upon which program delivery and classroom instruction develop and are implemented. The authors of this article, Bate, Clark, and Riley, provide a great example of using focus groups in order to see the effectiveness of a program. We can use this in gifted programs as well. Using focus groups with former gifted students as participants can help us pinpoint exactly what needs to be improved. The second article that I want to discuss is titled Learning by Doing: Action Research to Evaluate Provisions for Gifted and Talented Students. Riley and Molson use focus groups in this article in order to understand the concept of action research for gifted education. The authors define action research as a process of evaluation that enables learning by doing. Through focus groups, the researchers in this article were able to contemplate the usefulness of action research. We can use this example to use focus groups in order to test new research in gifted education. For example, the idea of developing giftedness can be tested through focus groups. Teachers can be taught about how giftedness can be developed in children at a very young age. Using focus groups, we can survey the results of how giftedness develops while trying out various methods. The third article that I will discuss is titled Establishing Positive Relationships with Secondary Gifted Students and Students with Emotional and Behavioral Disorders, giving these diverse learners what they need. In this 2014 article, Capern and Hammond used focus groups in understanding secondary school students with behavioral disorders. The results indicated that gifted students value their teachers' behaviors towards them in order to perform academically. With the help of a focus group, the researchers were able to identify certain behaviors that convey high levels of social support. We can again use this example in gifted education. We can use focus groups to see how the social emotional needs of gifted students are being fulfilled. Having high school students as participants, we can ask them questions such as how important is your teacher's support to your academics? This way, we can identify their needs and modify our programs according to fulfilling those needs. The fourth article simply discusses the importance of focus groups. Franz writes that unfocused in a focus group gives us substantive discussion on topics not directly tied to the goals of the project. As we discussed the advantages of focus groups earlier, we saw that they tend to give us information that we are not always looking for. Therefore, the author of this article suggests that even though the method is called focus group, straying away from the focus can also benefit us. Some additional changes of a focus group are increased engagement on issues, being proactive on preventing conflicts, and helping make decisions on programs. This can be very helpful in gifted education because even today, there is a dire need of program improvement in schools all over the nation. Being unfocused in a focus group on gifted education will help us gain more insight on how we can improve ourselves as gifted educators. So here is what my handout on focus groups looks like. If you're watching this on YouTube, I have attached a link to the handout in the description of the video. In the first part of the handout, I discuss what a focus group is, its components, and its advantages and disadvantages. In the second part of the handout, I discuss the purposes of the focus groups and its uses according to current research. Also, I added a list of references so that you may read more about the use of focus groups. I've also added a link to the survey or evaluation of focus groups. Here is the link to an evaluation that you may use to evaluate a focus group that you had recently attended. In this slide, I show you the first two questions of an evaluation that you can use in order to see how effectively your school or district uses focus groups. This short survey includes questions such as how effective was the procedure of the focus group at your school? Again, for YouTube users, I can attach a link to the survey in the description. This slide shows the next 4 questions of the survey or the evaluation. This slide has the last 4 questions for a total of 10 questions. To conclude, let's debrief what we have learned. Focus groups are helpful for gathering insights on a program or situation. If implemented correctly, focus groups can help improve gifted programs, and sometimes unfocusing in a focus group can give us a new perspective on the topic of research. And here is a list of my references that I have used in this presentation. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you so much for your time.